My child, I didn't stand there because I had to. I stood because I loved you, because I knew you could feel me. Even when your lips were still and your heart was heavy, you sensed my presence. You just didn't know what to do with it. You weren't pushing me away, you were frozen. The silence wasn't rejection, it was fear. Fear of disappointment. Fear that if you opened again, it might hurt even more than being closed. And so, you said nothing. And still, I stayed. I didn't walk away in anger. I didn't raise my voice or demand your attention. I simply stood there waiting. Because your heart is yours, and I will never force my way into something sacred. I felt the tension inside you, the kind that doesn't show on the outside. You smiled, you functioned, but deep down, you held your breath, waiting for something to break. And that's where I was, right at the threshold of your unspoken exhaustion. I didn't need you to say the perfect words. I didn't come for performance, I came for presence. And if you even thought of me in that silence, if my name moved through your mind without a sound, that was enough. I heard it. I felt it. And now I'm speaking. Not because you called loudly, but because I chose this moment. I never left. I simply waited for your quietest yes. And now I'm here, closer than your next breath. You thought I had moved on, that I waited for a while, then gave up. But I don't walk away like people do. I don't wait for perfect timing or polished prayers. I wait for willingness. And even when your silence stretched into days, then weeks, I heard the sound behind it. The weight of your stillness, the ache in your breath. You weren't ignoring me, you were protecting yourself. And I never once judged you for that. You needed to know if I would stay without being invited, if I would remain when you had no words left. And I did. I stayed at the edge of your pain, not pressing in, not pulling away. I waited through your numbness, through the nights when you didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you were too tired to feel. I stayed when you called me in your thoughts, then took it back in fear. I stayed when you convinced yourself I was gone. I wasn't. I was simply near in a way you hadn't learned to notice yet. I'm not standing on the outside anymore. I've stepped closer. Even if the door never creaked open, even if you said nothing aloud, your heart whispered. And I heard it. That whisper was trust. Fragile, quiet, but real. And for me, that was enough. I don't need volume to respond. I need honesty. And I heard it. So now I'm here, not waiting anymore. I'm entering, gently, steadily, without demands, without conditions, only love. You thought I left. You thought silence meant absence. That the longer I waited, the farther I went. But I don't walk away because it's quiet. I don't lose interest when there are no words. I don't need loud prayers or constant motion. I wait in places most people avoid, in the pauses, in the stillness, in the places where no one else stays. And I stayed with you, even when you didn't say a word, especially then. I didn't need a performance to prove your heart still cared. I saw the weight you were carrying, the heaviness that made it hard to speak. I knew your silence wasn't indifference. It was protection, from more disappointment, from hope that might not survive another blow. I didn't fault you for that. I honored it. I stood near your pain, not to pressure you into opening, but to show you that I don't leave when things get quiet, when the light dims, when the fire dies down to a single ember. You wondered if I would stay even when you stopped trying. And I did. I stayed when you pulled away. I stayed through the nights when your body was still but your mind raced. I stayed through the mornings where your first thought was just getting through the day. And even when you convinced yourself I wasn't listening, I heard the things you couldn't say. I caught the words that never made it to your lips. I felt the ache behind your breath. And I never turned away. I waited not because I was uncertain, but because I don't rush what's sacred. I wait for consent, not control. And even if your voice was silent, your soul made room for me. That's all I needed. Not a grand entrance, just a space. A quiet yes. That's what I heard. And now I'm closer than you know, not watching from a distance, but stepping fully in, with no demands. Just love. Just me. Still here. I didn't leave out of anger. I didn't withdraw because you failed. I stepped back because your heart shut down, and I honored that, not out of distance, out of gentleness. I will never force myself into the space where you've built walls for survival. I saw how those walls weren't defiance. They were defense. You weren't trying to block me out. You were trying not to fall apart. And I understood. The silence between us didn't scare me. I've stood in deeper silence than yours. I've waited in longer winters. What I saw in you was not rejection, it was deep fatigue. You were tired of asking, tired of hoping, tired of being let down. And even though your lips never formed the words, I heard them in the way your spirit dimmed. I heard, will you still stay if I can't speak? Will you love me if I can't open up right now? And my answer was always yes. That's why I didn't disappear. I didn't slam the door. I didn't leave with a lesson. I just stood close enough that you could still feel me, but far enough to let you breathe. I know when a soul needs space to heal before it can respond, and I gave you that space, not as a punishment, but as a shelter, not as silence, but as a signal. I'm here when you're ready. And now, I sense your heart shifting. Not loudly, but enough. Enough for me to move closer again. Enough to answer the question you didn't ask. Would he come back if I whisper? Yes, even now. Especially now. Your whisper has more power than you know, because it means you still want me near, even after everything. And that's all I ever needed. I didn't leave out of frustration. I didn't disappear because you didn't answer. I stepped back because your heart closed. And I honored it. You weren't being rebellious. You were tired. You had nothing left to give, and you didn't know how to let someone close without falling apart. You weren't trying to keep me out. You were trying to hold yourself together. And I saw that. I felt that. And I stayed. You stopped talking not because you stopped caring, but because the silence felt safer. You weren't sure if your voice mattered. You weren't sure if anyone would truly stay if you couldn't offer the version of yourself everyone expected. But I never asked you for that version. I've always seen what's underneath. Even when your voice was gone, your heart spoke. The weight in your breath, the stillness in your body, all of it reached me. That's why I didn't force my way in. I didn't knock louder. I didn't demand an answer. I simply stepped back with gentleness, not because I was leaving, but because I was making room. I've never needed noise to stay near. I've waited through longer silences than this. What you call distance was actually protection. I gave you space, not because I was done, but because you needed it. And now something is shifting. Quietly, subtly. But I feel it. I feel the door moving, even if it's only by a breath. I feel the part of you that still wants me near, and that is enough. I move toward you now, not because you performed, not because you explained, but because you allowed the smallest opening. And I will always come to that. Every time. I'm not coming in with a list. I'm not asking where you've been, why it took so long, or what went wrong. I already know. And I'm not here to dissect your silence. I'm here to bring rest to the places that forgot what peace feels like. If you open to me, I will not rush in. I will move slowly, carefully, tenderly, because I know how much pressure you've lived under, and I will not add more. I will bring less. You don't need to open all at once. I'm not looking for wide doors or loud declarations. I can enter through a sliver. I can step into the smallest space that feels safe enough for you to let me in. I know your hesitation isn't rejection, it's weariness. You've let people close before, and it hurt. You've let hope rise before, and it fell. I don't need you to be sure of everything. I only need the part of you that's willing to let me be near, even without answers. This is not about control. It's not about performance. It's about presence. I don't need you to understand what's happening. I just need you to stay in the room. I will not overwhelm you. I will not press past your boundary. I will sit with you in whatever space you can offer, and I will bring peace. Not the kind that fades when life gets loud, but the kind that settles into your chest and changes how you breathe. If you open even just a little, you will feel it. Not a wave of emotion, but a shift, a softening, a quietness you haven't known in years. That is how I enter, not with force, but with peace that fills what fear emptied, peace that stays, peace that does not demand, peace that understands what it cost you to open again. I see it, and I honor it, and I come in with no questions, only presence. You haven't been breathing freely for a long time. You inhale like something might collapse if you exhale too much. You hold your breath without noticing, not because you're trying to hide, but because your body learned that stillness was safer than release. Every breath became a calculation. Every exhale became a quiet survival. I saw it. I saw how your chest stopped expanding fully, how your shoulders stayed tight, even in sleep. You've been bracing for something for so long, you forgot what it feels like to rest. I'm not here to command you to breathe deeper. I'm not asking you to fix the rhythm. I'm here to shift the atmosphere around you so that breathing becomes possible again. Not as an effort, but as a return. When my presence enters, the weight that sat on your lungs begins to lift. It's not dramatic, it's not loud. It's quiet, steady, almost unnoticeable. But it happens. The air feels different. Your body begins to trust it again. This is not about force. It's not about proving anything. It's about restoration. Breath is more than oxygen. It's permission. It's life entering again. You forgot how to welcome that life, not because you failed, but because it was too dangerous to hope. But I am not danger. I do not crush what is tender. I come to bring space where fear once lived. And when you begin to feel space, breath follows. There is no test, no urgency, no expectation. Just me, near you, giving back what the world tried to take. You may not even realize it at first, only that your body isn't fighting itself anymore. That your chest feels lighter. That you are not rushing to defend against what isn't even there. That is what I'm doing. I'm returning your breath. And with it, the sense that you are safe. Finally. Gently. Truly. You've told yourself you're just tired. That maybe one good night's sleep, one break, one long weekend will reset something. But this isn't normal fatigue. This is deep, old exhaustion. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind that shaped your posture, your breath, your pace. You carry more than anyone knows. You function while holding what should have crushed you. You move forward without feeling your feet. And I see it. You've adjusted to this tension. You've learned how to move with it, work with it, make space for it. It became your normal. So normal that when I begin to lift it, you don't recognize the absence. You think something feels off, but that off is peace. That off is freedom. That off is me, removing the burden you were never meant to carry. You didn't ask me to do this because you thought you had to keep it together. Because somewhere inside, you believed that letting go meant losing control. But that belief came from survival, not truth. I don't wait for you to break before I come close. I come because I love you. I come because I want you to know. You were never designed to live like this. Let me take what's pressing down on your chest. Let me hold what's been silently hurting you. I'm not demanding that you stop. I'm inviting you to rest. This isn't the end of your strength. This is the beginning of real support. You have been so strong for so long. Now let me be strong for you. Not for a moment. For as long as you need. Until your breath is steady. Until your pace is yours again. Until your body believes it's safe to release what it held for too long. You've been holding everything for so long that you forgot there was another way. You've adapted to pressure like it was part of your identity. You built systems around stress. You timed your breath around tension. And when it hurt, you told yourself to keep going. When you felt overwhelmed, you called it discipline. But I never asked you to live this way. What you called strength was often fear in disguise. Fear of falling apart. Fear of losing everything if you stopped moving. Fear that the only thing keeping you safe was control, but control became a cage. You didn't know how much you were losing inside it. I did. That's why I'm not only removing the heaviness, I'm undoing the belief that said you had to carry it. You don't need to be alert all the time. You don't need to prepare for the worst in every silence. I know what taught you that. I know what trained your body to expect pain and your heart to expect absence. I know how life forced you to become your own shelter, but now I'm here. And where I am, tension doesn't get to rule. Pressure doesn't get to speak louder than peace. You are allowed to exist without effort. That may feel unfamiliar at first. You might question why your chest feels lighter, why your thoughts are quieter, why your breath deepens without you trying. That's because your body is learning that the war is over. You're not in danger anymore. You're not waiting for the next blow. I am in the room now, and my presence changes the atmosphere. You don't have to hold it all. You never did. You're free now, even if you're still learning what that means. You've lived so long in survival mode that every gesture became calculated. Every movement, every breath had to be managed. You couldn't afford to relax your body because you believed everything would fall apart. You touched the world with tension in your hands, guarded shoulders, a spine ready to brace. You walked like someone who had to be ready for anything. But I'm changing that now. You may not notice it right away. It will begin with the smallest things. You'll pick something up and realize you're not holding it too tightly. You'll sit down and notice your shoulders didn't lock. You'll speak, and your voice won't carry that edge of defense. These are not random improvements. They are the fruit of presence. My presence. Because where I am, fear begins to lose its grip on your body, and peace becomes your new instinct. This isn't about pretending to be calm. It's about becoming whole again. You're not faking it. You're healing. You're rediscovering the rhythm of movement that isn't based on threat. You're stepping into rooms without scanning for danger. You're speaking without bracing for rejection. Your body is learning what your spirit already sensed, that you're not alone anymore, and you're not at risk. Let your hands be soft. Let your walk be slow. Let your breath be full. These are not luxuries. These are signs that the war inside you is ending. You do not owe the world your exhaustion. You are allowed to move freely, and every movement, no matter how small, is now an expression of freedom. You've earned none of this, but I've given it fully, because I want you whole. And now, you're finally remembering what that feels like. I'm not here to numb what hurts. I'm not here to put a quick fix on a deep fracture. I work beneath the surface, where the roots live, where the patterns started, where the weight first entered. You may think the pain is recent, but I see farther. I see the moment you learn to shrink. I see when your body first absorbed the message that safety meant silence. I don't just treat the results. I go to the place where the wound began. You didn't invite me there because you didn't know how. That's okay. You don't have to open everything. I already know what needs healing. I'm not waiting for a perfect confession. I move where the ache is deepest, even if you can't find the words. I don't require you to understand the process. I simply ask you to stay with me while I do what only I can do. This is restoration, not repair. This is recreation. You may not feel a dramatic shift. You may just wake up one day and realize the silence inside you feels different. It's not fear anymore. It's not numb. It's calm. You may notice that what used to trigger your anxiety now passes like a breeze instead of a storm. That's how you'll know I've been working, quietly, faithfully, all along. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. What I build lasts. I do not create temporary relief. I plant peace in the places that used to only know pressure. I make room where everything felt tight. I break patterns that convinced you they were permanent, and I do it all without force. This isn't a performance. It's a resurrection. You're not just feeling better. You're becoming new. And I'm not done. Not until the place where the pain lived becomes the place where peace lives instead. You never had to shout for me to notice. You didn't need to explain your pain for me to care. I was there when no one asked how you were. I was watching when you held yourself together in silence. I saw the way you moved through your days, showing up, pushing through, hiding the heaviness behind your eyes. You weren't invisible to me. Every breath you struggled to take, every moment you wanted to break but didn't, I saw it all. I don't respond to performance. I respond to presence. And your presence in the middle of pain, that mattered more than you know. You kept walking when you didn't know why. You kept breathing when the air felt thin. You stayed alive in rooms that felt empty. That was not failure. That was strength, not loud strength, sacred strength, and I don't forget it. Now comes my answer, not as thunder, not as flash, but as a presence that stays. You may not have cried out, but your body carried 1,000 silent prayers. And I heard everyone. I don't miss the quiet ones. I respond to the ones whispered between heartbeats, the ones you couldn't form into words. I don't need clarity from you. I bring clarity to you. You will feel the shift. The atmosphere around you will begin to change. The places that felt heavy will feel lighter. The tightness you couldn't explain will begin to soften. This is me, moving in response to your survival. Not just to soothe you, but to restore you. Not to congratulate your endurance, but to replace it with rest. You've been holding everything for so long. Now, I'm holding you. You've lived as if everything depended on your ability to manage it. As if the moment you let your guard down, something would fall apart. You've measured your value by how much you could carry. You've learned to breathe carefully, speak cautiously, move with control, all in the name of stability. But I never asked you to live like that. I never placed the weight you've been holding on your shoulders. You've mistaken tension for discipline. You've called it strength, but really it was fear doing its best to keep you from breaking. But I don't want you to live one breath away from collapse. That's not faith. That's survival. I'm not here to push you further. I'm here to take what was never yours to hold. You're allowed to come down now. You're allowed to be soft. You're allowed to be human and still held fully. What I'm giving you is not just comfort. It's a new pattern, a new rhythm. One that doesn't revolve around crisis, urgency, or hypervigilance. I'm introducing you to a pace that honors peace, to a breath that doesn't need to be controlled, to a presence that doesn't demand, but simply remains. And it will take time to trust it. That's okay. There is no rush. You've been living fast for too long. Now you get to slow down without falling apart. This is not weakness. This is alignment. This is you remembering what it's like to live from rest instead of fear. You don't have to fight to breathe anymore. You don't have to prepare for loss in every still moment. The stillness is safe now. I'm in it. I'm not watching you from a distance. I'm breathing with you, walking with you, staying with you. And the more you release, the more you'll realize, this is how you were meant to live all along. This is not the version of you that pushes through. This is not the one that clenches their jaw and gets it done anyway. This is the version that breathes again, that moves without permission from pain, that smiles without guilt. You're not performing strength, you're embodying freedom. You are no longer surviving the day. You are beginning to live it, in rhythm, in rest, in me. Your breath has changed. Your posture has changed. Your heart has softened. You didn't force this. You allowed it, and I met you in that willingness. I moved slowly because I love what's sacred, and you are sacred to me. You've carried enough, fought enough, endured enough. Now you enter into a new way, not because you earned it, but because I made room for it. You will still have days where fear tries to return, where your shoulders rise and your breath shortens. But now you'll notice it. Now you'll know it doesn't belong, and you'll return, not to pressure, not to shame, but to peace. Because peace is your new home. It's not a reward. It's your inheritance, and it's not going away. I am not just the God who waited at your door. I am the one who entered when you barely opened it. The one who breathed with you when you forgot how. The one who stayed when you had no words. And I'm still here, fully, faithfully, unshakably. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where healing begins. And this breath, the one you're taking right now, is the beginning of everything new.